Welcome to The Explainer. Today, we are talking about a choice that seems small, but it can absolutely make or break your lighting project. Yep, I'm talking about 12 volts versus 24 volts. Get this right, and you've got a brilliant setup. Get it wrong? Well, you end up with a dim, frustrating failure. And trust me, by the end of this, you're going to know exactly which one is right for you and save yourself a ton of headaches. But before we get into that showdown, we've got to talk about the number one villain of all LED projects. All right, so first up, the voltage drop problem. This is, hands down, the number one enemy of LED projects. Okay, have you ever seen this? You install this beautiful new LED strip, and it's super bright at the start, but by the end, it's just sad and dim. Yeah, that's not a faulty strip. It's a basic principle of electricity, and once you get this, everything else clicks into place. So here's what's happening. As that electricity flows down the strip, it's facing resistance the whole way. And the longer the strip, the more resistance there is. So the voltage, the electrical pressure, literally drops off by the time it reaches the end. I love this analogy. It's perfect. Think of voltage as water pressure. You've got a super long, skinny garden hose. The pressure is great right at the spigot, but at the other end, you just get this weak little dribble. That's voltage drop. And this idea is the key to understanding why 12 versus 24 volts is such a big deal. All right, let's get into the showdown. 12 volts versus 24 volts. Okay, the most obvious difference right off the bat is how far you can run these things. With a 12-volt strip, you start seeing that ugly dimming after about 16 feet. But a 24-volt system, it can go double that. Easy. All the way up to 32 feet with nice, consistent brightness from a single power source. So for long, clean runs of light, 24-volt is the clear winner. No contest. But wait, this is where 12-volt makes its comeback. If you're doing something with a lot of precise cuts and tight corners, like maybe under your kitchen cabinets, the cut points are everything. A 12-volt strip usually lets you cut every 3 LEDs, which gives you amazing precision. The 24-volt strips, you have to cut every 6 or 7 LEDs. That means you might end up with an awkward dark spot right where you needed light. Now, let's talk about efficiency, because this is a big one. To get the exact same amount of light, a 24-volt system only has to pull half the current, or amps, as a 12-volt one. And why should you care? Well, lower current means way less energy is wasted as heat. So your 24-volt system runs cooler, saves a bit of power, and will probably even last longer. That's a triple win. Yeah, this is something people get mixed up about all the time. A 24-volt battery doesn't have more power than a 12-volt one with the same capacity. The total energy, the watt-hours, is what really counts, and that's the same. The real magic of 24 volts isn't having more power. It's about being smarter with the power you have. It's more efficient, which, like we just said, means less heat and better performance over a long run. So let's put it all in a quick table. At a glance, you can see the trade-off, right? 24-volt is the champ for long runs and efficiency. 12-volt is the king of precision cutting. It's really about length and efficiency versus custom, detailed work. Okay, so we've got the theory down, but what does this all mean when it comes to the practical stuff, like actually installing these things and, paying for it all? This chart really drives that efficiency point home. Look at this. For the exact same 100-watt load, a 12-volt system is pulling over 8 amps of current. The 24-volt system, just over 4. That's half. And that one simple fact has massive implications for how you wire everything up. And here it is, the big payoff. Lower amps means you get to use thinner wire. And thinner wire is cheaper, more flexible, and just plain easier to work with and hide. So you're not just saving money on the wire itself, you're making the entire installation process simpler and cleaner. That's a huge win. So what about the bottom line, the total cost? Look, for a really small, simple project, a 12-volt kit might be a few bucks cheaper to start. But for anything bigger, 24-volt is almost always more cost-effective in the long run. Why? Cheaper wire, and you'll need fewer power supplies to cover the same area. Those savings add up really, really fast. But there's always a but, right? You got to think about component availability. If you're working on anything that moves, an RV, a van, a boat, the whole world is built around 12 volts. Sticking with 12V means you'll have a massive selection of accessories, dimmers, and controllers that are designed to just plug and play. It's the standard for a reason in those applications. So that brings us to the big question. How do you pick the right tool for your job? Let's match the voltage to your project. Okay, so when should you definitely go with 12 volt?
It's pretty clear-cut. If you're lighting a car, an RV, or a boat, stick with 12 volt. It's the native language of those systems. Also, for any short runs, especially those needing super precise custom lengths, like under-cabinet lighting or detailed display cases, 12 volt is your best friend for that flexibility.
And when is 24 volt the right call? Well, for pretty much any new large-scale project. We're talking long runs in commercial spaces, architectural lighting in coves and hallways, or basically any big job where you want to keep your wiring simple and your costs down. If you're starting from scratch and efficiency matters, 24 volt is the way to go. All right, we've covered a ton of info, so let's wrap this up with this simple decision framework. This is your project, your choice. Let's figure out which system is right for you. All you have to do is answer a few quick questions. Okay, here's your checklist. Just run through these in your head. How long is the single longest piece of strip you need? How important is it to be able to cut it at a very specific spot? Is this going in a vehicle or a building? And are you trying to keep wiring simple and cheap on a big project? Answering these honestly doesn't just give you a number, it helps you design a better, more reliable system that's actually built for what you need. Look, if you forget everything else, just remember this one golden rule of thumb. If your run is under 16 feet, 12 volt is probably going to be just fine. Anything longer than that, go with 24 volt. It's the safer, more efficient bet. That simple rule will get you the right answer 90% of the time. And that's it. You're now officially an expert on this. You know how to avoid that dreaded voltage drop and how to pick the perfect system for your needs. So the only question left is, what brilliant idea are you going to bring to light?